Hello, and welcome to this kind of special spooky Halloween thing that we kind of did or whatever. Me and Alex recorded on when we last recorded on the last podcast. It was something we wanted to do for the spooky season for Halloween, and I thought I could get this up and everything like that. So, it's a reading of an old creepypasta, and we just kind of had some fun with. So enjoy it for the spooky aspect or just generally fun or something a little fun, figure we do. So please enjoy the Russian sleep experiment.
The Russian sleep experiment. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. Oh god, this is gonna be terrible. They were kept in a sealed. Yeah, no, I can't read.
They were kept in a sealed environment and carefully monitor their oxygen intake so the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in the high concentrations. This was before closed circuit cameras, so they had only microphones and 5-inch thick glass porthole size windows into the chambers to monitor them. The chamber was so stocked with books and cots to sleep on, but no bedding, as well as running water, a toilet, and enough dried food to last
over a month.
It's the last of all 5 over a month. Okay, that just didn't read right in my brain.
It's fine. I'm struggling here too.
It's like the test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised falsely that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30 days. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past. The general tone of their conversations took on a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started complaining about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. Did you want to go from there?
Yeah. We can just switch off, I guess.
Yeah.
They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering into the microphones and one-way mirrored portholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think that they could win with the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades. The other subjects in captivity with them... Oh, that's what they were talking about. At first, the researchers suspected that this was an effect of the gas itself. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran through the length of the chamber repeatedly, yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight, at which point he continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior was how the other captives reacted to it, or rather, didn't react to it. They continued whispering into the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The 2 non-screaming captives tore the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped. So what was it? People can only usually go a week or so without sleep?
Yeah, isn't it like by the time you hit the 4th or 5th day that you just you start losing your damn mind, you start hallucinating stuff?
Yeah. So these people are on day 9.
Yeah. So they've started to go off the deep end.
Yeah.
So it's clear.
3 more days passed. The researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure that they were working, since they thought it impossible that no sound could be occurring with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen the 5 people consumed at a very high level of the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume at a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. Sorry. On the morning of the 14th day, researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction from the captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the people they were afraid they were either dead or vegetables. They announced, "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor or you will be shot. Compliance will earn you one of your immediate freedom." To their surprise, they heard a calm voice respond a single phrase, "We no longer want to be free." Debate broke out amongst the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed out of the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air, and immediately voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for their lives of loved ones, to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened and soldiers were sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever, and so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. You want to pick it up?
4 of the 5 test subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state of any of them in life. The food rations past 5 days had not been so much touched. They were chunks of meat from the dead test subjects' thighs and chest stuffed into the drains in the center of the chamber. Blocking it all would allow 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely how much water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. Their destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated that wounds were infected by hand, not with teeth, as the researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wounds indicated that much. If not all of them, they were self-inflicted. The abdominal organs began below the rib cage.
Abdominal.
Yeah. Jeez, I can't read. Below the rib cage of all 4 test subjects had been removed, while the hearts, lungs, and diaphragms remained in place. The skin and most of the muscles attached to the ribs had been ripped off, exposing the lungs through the rib cage. All the blood vessels and organs remained intact, but they had taken out and laid on the floor, fanning out around the eviscerated but still living bodies of the subjects. The digestive tracts of all 4 could be seen working, digesting food. It quickly became apparent that what they were digesting was their own flesh, and that they had ripped off and eaten over the course of days. Jesus. All right.
We can't sleep. We're gonna start ripping.
We're just gonna rip our own flesh off and just start eating it and like nom nom nom. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still, many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. The subjects themselves continued to scream to be left in the chamber and begged and demanded that the gas be turned back on, lest they fall asleep.
It's like that one Family Guy episode where like they started hallucinating, so they were just like, "What is all this skin doing on my arm?"
Yeah, pretty much.
Also, what I'm curious about is like, how are they still alive? Like,
because they're eating just enough of their own flesh and water to stay alive, I guess.
All their blood's out of their vessels. It's go okay. We still have plenty of food.
Yeah.
Cause oh man, this is weird. This is cool though.
Yeah.
I love this story.
To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped out, and another was gravely injured by having their testicles ripped off and their artery in his leg severed by one of the test subject's teeth. Another 5 of the soldiers lost their lives, if you count the ones that committed suicide in the weeks following the incident.
Rip his balls off!
Rip his balls! Jesus. I guess you go to the place with the most meat, huh?
Give me the gas or I'll crush them.
Give me the gas, or though your balls are gone. Jesus. Let's see. In the struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen ruptured and bled out almost immediately. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times a human dose of morphine derivative and still fought like a cornered animal, breaking the ribs and arm of the doctor. His heart had been seen to beat for a full 2 minutes after he had bled out, to the point that there was more air in his vascular system than blood, even after it stopped. He continued to scream, flail for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach, and just repeated the word "more" over and over, weaker and weaker, until he finally fell silent. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. The 2 with the intact vocal cords continually begging for gas demanded to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 was taken to only surgical operating room, and the facility had in the process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back within his body. It was found that he had effectively immune to the sedative they had been giving him in order to prepare him for surgery. He fought furiously against his restraints when the anesthetic gas was brought out and put under. He managed to tear most of the way through a 4-inch wide leather strap on one wrist, even though it weighs the weight of 200-pound soldiers holding down that wrist. It only took more anesthesia than normal to put him under. In the instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. Damn! So when they go to sleep, they die, huh? That's why they didn't want to go. That's why they want to go to sleep.
In the autopsy of the subject that died on the operating table, it was found that his body had triple the normal level of oxygen. Well, yeah, it's going through his bloodstream now. The muscles that were still attached to his skeleton were badly torn, and he had broken 9 bones in his struggle to not be subdued. Most of them were from the force of his own muscles he had exaggerated on them. The second survivor had been the first of the group of the 5 to start screaming. His vocal cords destroyed, he was unable to beg or object to surgery. He only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval when the anesthetic gas was brought near him. He shook his head yes when someone suggested reluctantly that they should try the surgery without the anesthetic, and did not react for the entire 6-hour procedure of replacing his abdominal organs and attempting to cover them with what remained of his skin. The surgeon presiding started, that's a weird word, repeatedly that it should not be medically possible for the patient to still be alive. Wow, you don't say. One terrified nurse assisting the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers. When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of a drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and pad fetched so the patient could write his message. It was simple. Keep cutting. The other 2 test subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthetic as well, although they had to be injected with a paralytic for the duration of the operation. The surgeon found it impossible to perform the operation, while the patients laughed continuously. Once paralyzed, the subjects could only follow the attending researchers with their eyes. The paralytic cleared their system in an abnormally short period of time, and they were soon trying to escape their bonds. The moment they could speak, they were again asking for the gas. The researchers tried asking why they had injured themselves, why they had ripped out their own guts, and why they wanted to be given the gas again. Only one response was given: I must remain awake. All 3 subjects' restraints were reinforced, and they were placed back into the chamber. awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The researchers, facing the wrath of their military benefactors for having failed their stated goals of the project, considered euthanizing the surviving subjects. The commanding officer, an ex-KGB, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The researchers strongly objected, but were overruled. In preparation for being sealed in the gas chamber again, subjects were connected to an EEG monitor and had their restraints padded for long-term confinement. Everyone surprised, all three stopped struggling the moment it was let slip that they were going back on the gas. It was obvious that at this point, all three were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects that could speak was humming loudly and continuously. The mute subject was straining his legs against the leather bonds with all his might. First left, then right, then left again for something to focus on. The remaining subject was holding his head off his pillow and blinking rapidly, having been first to be wired to the EEG machine. Most of the researchers were monitoring their brainwaves in surprise. They're normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably. It looked as if they were repeatedly suffering brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on paper scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, only one nurse saw the man's eyes slip shut, and at the same moment his head hit the pillow. His brainwaves immediately changed to that of deep sleep, then flatlined for the last time as his heart simultaneously stopped. The only remaining subject that could speak started screaming to be sealed in now. His brainwaves showed the same flatlines as the one who just died from falling asleep. The commander gave the order to seal the chamber with both subjects inside, as well as 3 researchers. One of the named 3 immediately drew his gun and shot the commander point blank between the eyes, and then turned the gun on the mute subject and blew his brains out as well. He pointed his gun at the remaining subject, still restrained to a bed, as the remaining members of the medical and research team fled the room. "I won't be locked in here with those things. Not with you!" he screamed at the man strapped to the table. "What are you?" he demanded. "I must know." The subject smiled. "Have you forgotten so easily?" the subject asked. "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go into a nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." The researcher paused, then aimed at the subject's heart and fired. The EEG flatlined as the subject weakly choked out. "So nearly free." And that's the Russian sleep experiment. That's the photo that was normally paired with it.
Yeah, I've actually seen that photo before, and it was it's creepy. It's definitely creepy. So I have heard of this story. I've just never actually read it.
Hey, Halloween time.
Exactly.
So there was obviously problems with that story, but among creepypastas, that was considered like one of the good ones. There was a lot of shit.
Oh yeah,
a lot of shit. We already talked about like fucking Mr. Widemouth, Dead Bart, Squidward sewer slide. There was a lot of shit, but there's ones like this that are comparatively at least okay. What did you think of the Russian sleep experiment now that you've finally read through it?
It's good. It's creepy, but it's good. It keeps you on your toes at all times of what exactly is going on. It's like you can see, the insanity just creeping through or whatever, and then you get to the point where it's like, oh yeah, we're putting all their organs back in, and they're like, hey yeah, just don't sedate us, just go ahead and do the thing. And they're like, what?
Get that,
And it's like, you laugh at it. It's like, and you go like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, or whatever. And then the surgeon goes like, yeah, that shouldn't be possible. And you go, well, yeah, no shit. But it's like, but just goes to further show. It's like, that's not normal. Like that's not good.
They're like, Ben Shapiro. Okay, let's just say hypothetically, put me back on the gas. Put me back on the gas. Don't have to rip your balls off. Everyone wins.
Yeah,
it's
the thing that gets me the most about this story is the ending part, basically, where it's just like, it's like, oh, so nearly free, and it's like, so what happens if it had gotten free? It's like that whole thing of like, what happened if they could have gone back onto the gas and stayed awake for even longer? What would have happened?
Crazy to think about.
Yeah,
with a lot of really good horror stories, that's usually where they leave it off. It's that looming question of like, what if?
What if? Like, and it's always like what was it? Like all those like kind of older like horror films. I feel like a lot of times where it's just like you think like, oh, they beat back the evil, they won and everything like that, only for the last like final scene to be like, oh no, you're not free of anything, and they like the guy just like dies or whatever, like the curse continues on or something like that. I don't know. That's what I always think of whenever I was just like see like horror films sometimes where it was just like, oh yeah, you think you won? No, you didn't.
Yeah. So that's the case with a lot of my favorite like horror short stories that just leave like these looming questions. Like probably like my favorite like horror short story ever is a story that was posted on r/no-sleep called "Something Walks Whistling Past My House Every Night at 3:03." It's like stories, if you know what that one is, stories like that. And I think a good example of something that you've probably seen. You've seen Blair Witch Project, right?
I have not, actually.
You've not? Okay. So, well,
it's the whole thing of like found footage, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, but
yeah,
at the end of the movie, it's like it's not only the case of it's found footage. So did this actually happen? It's a case of like what did happen. It's like you've given clues and like it alludes to stuff, but you're never given.
There's never closure. There's never closure of like, well, what about it? Like it's like it just ends, and it's just like, but I still have questions. Well, that's kind of the beauty of it.
It's asking those questions that make it more scary. It's a incomplete puzzle. It doesn't feed you all the answers, and I think that's my favorite part. It's like I don't want them to explain like, oh, what the Blair Witch is or what exactly is happening in this forest. It's like that's not the point. That just takes out all the fun.
Yeah. Oftentimes it's like what is it? Everyone always talks about. Oh, in like Inception, like is he dreaming or not? And in the end, it doesn't matter. It's what you believe type thing. And like people have talked about it and so much, and it's the same thing with horror films or whatever. It's like oftentimes what you imagine in your head is going to be more terrifying than what will actually be on screen. And then exactly. I feel like that's when horror films when anything horror, whether it's stories, movies, or anything like that, when you get the idea into people's heads about, well, what if, or well, what about this type thing, and it's like, I don't know. And you go, well, that's more terrifying than anything else. And that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
I oftentimes find that's for most horror, anything basically, like that's what keeps me more interested in anything. It's like, yeah, big scary monster, whatever type thing. It's like, but when there's like a weird loop at the end, or it just ends with no definitive answer, you go, well, but this, but what about this? And you go,
I never like it when a horror movie plays its own, it's like whole hand, and it's because at that point it's like, okay, I get it. It's like, no, you don't understand. this is why this is so scary. And it's like, I would rather you just did it.
Just leave it off. Don't answer questions. Answer as many as you feel you need to, without giving away too much. That's all it is. Well, where did the Blair Witch come from? Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. It just existed.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I think another example of like something. Have you ever seen the movie Goodnight, Mommy?
No.
I'm not. Do you mind if I spoil it? Because I'm not. I'll be honest. I'm not crazy about that movie. The whole thing is that it's an allegory for, grief and how people deal with it. And by the end of the movie, it becomes blatantly obvious. It's a movie where I was hoping throughout the entire thing, because all these like weird, creepy things are happening, especially in the beginning. It's like, is this their real mom? It's like, if this is a creature, like, what is its plan? Why is it impersonating their mother? Or why is this... Or why do they suspect that this thing isn't their mother, and what are they gonna do about it? And a lot of that is just basically out the door by like the last half hour. It's like, oh yeah, that is really their mom. Basically they just come out and say that even before they've reached the climax. The kids are trapping her in this room because they still don't believe it. And I was thinking near the end of the movie, it's like, it'd be pretty crazy if they said, like, one of the kids wasn't real and, like, something like that. Because they were kind of alluding to that. Like, the kid was obviously in grief. This kid hasn't talked throughout the entire movie. It's like, it's a cool little mystery. And, in the climax, the mom says, it's a real shame that your brother died. And it's like, man, I'm not allowed to have any fun here, am I? They explained why she had a surgery. It was... it's like, oh, cool. That's the solution to the mystery. Okay. I don't... That means if I ever want to go back and watch this, it's like, oh, well, I already know what happens. Great. Cool. It's like, oh, is this their mom? Yeah, it is. Are the kids alive or dead? They're alive. Well, the one is dead. I don't know. I was so disappointed because the concept had such promise, and it just threw it all away by the end.
Yeah, it always feels like kind of like that's... I feel like that's one of the main reasons why sometimes horror doesn't always land in ways. Of the little bit of horror I've actually watched and really experienced or whatever, it's oftentimes the thing that always gets me is when they go about explaining things. It's like, don't explain things. Show that in the film and everything like that. If you want them to get context of like maybe how the monster works, maybe can it not see so it hears more and stuff like that. Okay. So the idea is that they need to keep silent so that way it doesn't find them type thing and everything like that. Well, why is it like that? Oh, well, it lost its ability to see. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit of why I can't see or whatever type thing. It's like, just, I see what you went for there. I have it. You don't need to explain it. So just stop explaining it, please.
With a lot of these old creepypastas, that was like the big issue too. I swear I've read so many where the main character will get to the end and there'll be like this giant exposition dump. Like, there's this one that was, a guy is, like, in the middle of, like, this church in the woods, and this cult leader is like, so you finally figured it out. Even though you finally figured it out, let me explain everything that's happening. Yeah. In the late 1800s, we discovered a creature in the woods, and then it'll talk for, like, the next 40 minutes about, like, and then we did this, and this happened, and this is what this is, and this is why this is really scary. No joke, in that same creepypasta, they said this cult was behind 9/11. And that was supposed to be scary somehow. I don't know. And by the end, I'm just like, that is so stupid. For having such an interesting setup, to have a chapter where you just explain everything. It's like, so we created a puzzle, and now we put in all in the pieces for you. It's like, leave me with something to chew on, please.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
That there there's some context, yes, that every story will need, but it's like good written stuff like that will go down to you gotta leave the reader with just enough to know what's going on, but not enough to know exactly what's happening. Like they need to know a little tidbit, but don't give them too much, otherwise it loses the mystery. And that's when horror really loses its horror, is when the mystery is gone. It's like I don't know. That's how I've always put it. It's like once the mystery's gone, it's not nearly as scary anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was like one of my favorite like horror games is the Outlast series or whatever. Mainly just Outlast 1 or whatever, because the second game was not the greatest. But I was like, it was always really interesting. Have you ever played that game?
Outlast?
Yeah.
I have, yeah. I really like Outlast.
Yeah, Outlast was like, it was just like, most of the time you're just running around, this like insane asylum basically with all these people that are just like, what happened to all these people type thing? Like, why are they all just insane and stuff like that? And it's like, there's never really a reason. It's just, they all just went insane, basically. And so it was just like, all right, whatever. And then you got big old, was it Chris Walker or whatever his name? The big guy who was going, little pig. Stuff like that. And he was just like, he was like a big intimidating guy you run from a majority of the game. And you're just like, why are you doing this? Why is any of this happening type thing? Why am I even here? And then all of a sudden they announce, or they show off like, oh, here's the, God, what was the thing called? Wall Rider. It was like, oh yeah, now this Wall Rider just comes out. What the fuck is this? Now you got this like supernatural entity here. Like, what the fuck? I don't know. It was just like, it kept you on like the right amount of just like, I don't know what's happening here. I don't even really necessarily know why I'm here, type thing. I don't know what's coming up around the corner, like, and everything like that. And that's what made the game really scary, type thing in essence. And it was just like, yeah. And then like, oh, then it turns out they were just like, it's like Russian fucking like scientists were doing like this like crazy experimentation and stuff like that. And that's what created the Wall Rider. And you go, damn. Unfortunately, Outlast 2 was not as good as the first one. It went a lot crazier.
That's too bad.
Yeah. It's like they set it up a little bit in the DLC they ended up putting out, like the whistleblower DLC, where they talked about how it's like, oh, they don't have any female patients or whatever, and they talked about people hallucinating the birth of the Antichrist and stuff like that, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And that's basically the story of Outlast 2, where it's just like this out in the boonies village or whatever type thing that's like, all of a sudden this one reporter dude and his wife like crash in the middle of it basically, and then all of a sudden within a month she's like giving birth and stuff like that, and you're like, okay. This went off the rails by a lot. And it's like, oh yeah, here's the birth of the Antichrist. And I go,
fucking
what? It went too crazy with it, and I think that was the main issue with it. It just went a little too balls to the walls. So I'm just like, I'm out. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm out.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. That was good, though. That was good.
Nice.
So, I think we should call it there, then.
I think so, yeah.
So, thank y'all so much for listening and watching. We're getting into the Halloween spirit. I might try and put that up on Halloween so you can listen to some creepy and not creepy commentary from us.
Hell yeah.
If hopefully I actually got around to doing that. I should be able to. So it should be easy enough to just plop that out. So, but yeah. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and anything like that. And leave us a review if you'd be so kind. And we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.